The multiverse theory basically shows that there's infinite possibilities and infinite possibilities exist, which some people might not agree with, but I think given enough time that it is possibly true, because everything will basically fall into order if there's enough belief for it. It's basically growing coherence for a specific thing. So if enough people believe that infinite possibilities exist, then technically it will be like bifurcation, and infinite possibilities will come into existence even if they are not yet. A bifurcation is a quantitative change in a dynamic system produced by multi-stream inflation, where the inflation causes bifurcations. If these bifurcations are in the observable stage of inflation, then interesting observational effects can take place. It provides an alternative creation mechanisms of bubble universes in internal inflation, as well as a mechanism to locally terminate internal inflation, which reduces the measure of internal inflation. The bifurcation point itself, however, does not result in internal inflation, and there is the possibility that the bifurcation trajectories never recombine. But I guess that's open for discussion. Okay. And then there's also string theory that proves that everything is, in some way or another, it is linked. Everything is made of unbelievably tiny strings, and those vibrations produce effects that we interpret as atoms, electrons, and quarks. So basically, if you take a neutrino and electrons and you break it down all the way to quarks, and you break down quarks even further, then we believe that there's like a tiny energy field within the quark that we then call strings. And the implicate and explicate order, which kind of contradicts the multiverse theory if you think about it on two complicated terms, which I'm not going to do now. But the implicate and the explicate order is basically the constant folding and unfolding of the universe. And that teaches us that even within chaos, there is a secret order. When describing the implicate order, David Bohm always said that nothing is a law unto itself. The implicate order is a new notion of structure. At most, something may behave in a relatively unlimited degree of autonomy, under certain conditions and in certain degrees of approximation. At the very least, each relative autonomous thing is limited by other such relative autonomous things. Quantum theory deals primarily with the structure of the implicate pre-space and how the explicate emerges from it. And I see everything as a multi-layered web of existence where different matrices link up with each other, and that basically includes different timelines, because I don't believe in the concept of time. So when different matrices link up together, that's just an example of events that happen. It's basically the same concepts of what we now see as time passing through different events. And then, because time doesn't exist, I believe that everything is just based on the collective consciousness made out of individual consciousness, and that basically links the past, the present, and the future into one singularity. And that basically means that it reveals itself through the patterns within history and the patterns of universal languages, of music, art, poetry, things that are ancient, that will outlive us all. So basically, I think that everything is a single point, like what they always say, where the still point is, there the dance is. But it's the same with the whole is contained within the sum of its parts. You can take any fractal out of that point and you can break it into so many multiple steps and multiple layers, because if you apply time to it, or the passing of time, or the arrow of time to it, it's going to become so multifaceted. It's either going to unfold forever or refold into a single point. And I think that it is good for us, like what Carl Jung said, a man that sees himself from both sides get in the middle. I think it's good for us to try and balance being both part of the world and not of the world, and seeing the fractals but also seeing the whole. and not just looking at the past and the present, but also looking at the future and take into consideration the present and the past, and the fact that it all comes to one single point and simultaneity, so that when you consider the future, you realize that there is hope. Because I think in today's time, it's very easy for us to actually give up hope, because we can see how things are and where things are going. But if you give enough, add another 200 years to that end result that we're currently thinking of, and then it's resetted back to a different point. So there's always hope, and there's always reason to keep believing and reason to keep bettering ourselves in order to try and have a positive impact in the world that we live in. Yeah.